Who wouldn't want to know everything in the universe? This Soviet agent found out and had her mind blown. This is the story of Irina Spalko. As this was the first Indiana Jones film in over 19 years, there was a lot of ideas thrown around. Both Steven Spielberg and George Lucas came back. However, there was going to be a couple of differences. After working on Schindler's List, Spielberg couldn't portray the Nazis in an over-the-top bad guy role again, and Lucas didn't want to use ex-Nazis as the villains. So, instead, since the film takes place in the 1950s, during the height of the Cold War, it was decided that the Soviet Union would be taking the villain role this time. One script that was written before Crystal Skull was decided was called Indiana Jones and the City of the Gods by Frank Darabont. While the script was never used, some elements did go over to Crystal Skull. One of these elements being the motivation of one of the villains, who had a desire to have unlimited knowledge, which would have resulted in them having their brains melted. When David Cope's script, Kingdomofthecrystalskull, was chosen to be the full film, the character evolved into Irina Spalko, KGB agent, who is said to have psychic powers. The role was played by Australian actress Cate Blanchett, who was more than happy to play the part. During development, it was planned that part of Spalko's face would be scarred by the giant ants. Unfortunately, it never got used, and her death was a lot more graphic in the shooting script. When her eyes got burnt out of their sockets, her body was just going to collapse on the floor, leaving nothing but two burnt holes. Born in a mountain village, Spalko knew from an early age she had special powers. Shunned by her village, she left when she came of age and began her quest for knowledge, training in the art of fencing and martial arts. She eventually joined the KGB and soon caught the attention of Joseph Stalin, who enlisted her in an expedition to find the crystal skull of Akator, a legend that fascinated Spalko herself. During her research, she developed a friendship with fellow comrade Anton Dojinko and discovered that the crystal skull might not have been from Earth, but beyond the known universe. Investigating the Roswell incident, she found out about Indiana Jones, who examined the crash itself. Knowing of his reputation, Spalko had her men capture him and his partner, George McHale, bringing him to Hangar 51, where the remains of a creature that was found in the crash was being held. First trying to use her powers to look into Jones's mind, she decided it was best to let him find the crate itself, threatening his and Mac's life. While confused with his tactics, which included using gunpowder to find the crate, thanks to its strong magnetic force. After finding the crate, she examined the mummified corpse. Jones tries to escape, but was surprised to see Mac was a double agent for the Soviets. But this didn't stop him from escaping anyway. After ordering her men to get him, Spalko left the hangar with the alien corpse. Dissecting the corpse led her to find the creature's skeleton being made from crystal, proving her theory about the skull. She also learnt of another archaeologist named Harold Oxley managed to discover the skull itself. However, after being driven mad by it, he returned it to its original spot. There is a whole story behind this, but I just want to focus on Spalko. So I'll just say that the Soviets captured him and Marion Ravenwood, who was close friends with Ox and a former lover to Jones, leading to a son, Mutt Williams, to meet Jones, leading to them to team up, find the crystal skull, again captured by the Soviets in progress. During his capture, Spalko told Jones everything she knew about the skull, threatening Ox, Marion and Mutt, who also happens to be Indy's son. Yeah, another story, so I won't go into it. In order for him to aid them to Akator, but in true Indy fashion, he managed to escape with his friends. While they were travelling in the Amazonian jungle, this leads into a chase, during which she and Mutt had a one-on-one fencing duel. Eventually, the chase is put to a stop when all the vehicles crash into an anthill. But this wasn't an ordinary anthill. This belonged to a colony of Safu ants, ants big enough to kill a whole human. A fate that Dovzhenko suffered, which slightly disturbed Spalko. Nevertheless, despite the heroes escaping her with the skull, she was still determined to follow them. Thanks to Mac, who was still a double agent, Spalko and her remaining men found their way to Akator and the temple, which contained the remains of the interdimensional beings, one waiting for its skull to be returned. After killing most of the natives who lived in the temple, she found Jones and his friends. Just before Ox had a chance to return the skull, Spalko stole the opportunity, and knowing the legend, asked for her reward. All the knowledge in the universe. With the skull returned, the beings prepared themselves to depart from Earth, but before they do, they started giving Spalko her prize. As they filled her head with knowledge, Indy and the others managed to escape, but Spalko's men are sucked into a giant portal that led into another dimension. Spalko, however, was too preoccupied with the knowledge still being forced into her head. Knowing it was too much for her, she asked for it to stop, but it was already too late. All the knowledge started to burn her brain, causing her eyes to burn from their sockets, until eventually her whole body disintegrated, with her remains getting pulled into the portal. The aliens returned to their home dimension. In other forms of media, Spalko appears in a short Lego film called Lego IndianaJones and the Raiders of the Lost Brick. She appears in the Lego video game adaptation using the powers of the skull to be the final boss. Much like Belloc and Donovan, Spalko's obsession with an ancient artifact led to her destruction, proving that there are some things men aren't meant to know. Next time, we'll be looking at Indy's friend-turned-traitor, George McCull.